June 2023. We're out looking for any seabirds just to get a shakedown trip in. We're waiting for the groundswell to come down over the next couple of days. I just got tucked in behind this lee of land here, but the seas are breaking over there. We got a good groundswell coming in, so we can't do that side. And I just thought I'd get a few kinks out of this system while we're out here. Let's try a little live stream. We're in the middle of the migratory season, so you'd expect to see a few hundred birds out here, because there's around 46 million birds a year. Yeah, hi there. There's around 46 million birds a year comes through here. Hi, Colette. Nice catch. Yeah, we're out in the boat because we want to get a baseline, and we're not seeing a single bird out here. No puffins, no murres or turs, no migratory birds. There's around 46 million birds will come past right here each year. This is the biggest migratory run of seabirds on the entire planet. We're out in Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada, out off the continent itself. Oh, what's going on here? Yeah, it's the same boat, Brian, yeah. So I'm not seeing a single bird, which is bizarre land. My gimbal just stopped. Give me a second here. We'll see if we can get that back in gear. There you go. We get the gimbal working again. Because the gimbal, even though it's not. Now I got an app so I can stream widescreen, right? But I can't seem to get it work anymore. So unfortunately, I need to try that when I get home later today to get the kinks out of that, or re-update the app or something. Thank you, everybody. Bless your hearts. So we're out looking. We got 5 days in so far this month. So this is day 6. Summer started today. And so it should be just this incredible amount of birds. There is a small colony of birds on that island. So just because you can see, we're going to get into the ground swells as soon as you go out in the open. I'm hiding on the corner of this island right now. And the idea is come out and see how many seagulls are here. See if they're having any fledglings. And just basically a shakedown trip this morning. It looks like it's going to be, we got to get a southerly and a westerly wind. We've been blowing north and easterly for about a week and a half, and so you're going to need an opposite wind to bring the swell down and calm the ocean out a bit. So normally we like to go up along that coastline over here on the southerly side. We're on the northerly side right now. And so we found there's 2 colonies of seagulls. They're the residential seagulls. They're not feeding. They're basically at the fish. There's a fish plant on the other side, and I think that's because that's where we found all the excrement too, right? That seems to be where they're getting their food to feed any fledglings. And the last time I was out here was a couple of weeks ago. We didn't see any fledglings whatsoever. And I just wanted to try out the live stream, see what the bandwidth was going to work out when I was out here. And so there is seagulls. We're going to see hopefully a few hundred seagulls on this island or more. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of hundred here. They're what I call the residential seagulls. They've been here for probably 2,000 generations or more. And we're going to look and see if they're coming ashore and feeding the babies. Yeah, it looks like one fell out of the nest to see. Looks like a gull just pulled one out of the nest over here to feed on a baby seagull. So we're going to wander over there. Let's hope I'm wrong. We won't know until we get a bit closer. We won't know until we get a bit closer. Looks like it's high tide. The tide is starting to fall. And so I got to go in here and just see if I'm correct in what I just said. No, they're feeding on the shoreline there, I think. So they're not eating anything. Instead of diving and feeding on fish and any other kind of fish, they're trying to feed at the high tide line. The tide is just going down. So they're feeding on maybe krill. Not krill, but the small invertebrates without the backbones. No, he's killing a little baby bird. That's what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing. So it might be a different species. He just pulled it out of the nest. There's a few cormorants up at the top. You probably can't see that. We're going to take another shot in and see if we can see what that seagull just pulled out of the nest. If they're eating their own babies, then that would be because there's no food. And so let's go and find out what they're eating. And as disgusting as that might sound to everybody. Let's get in there, right in there. Let's go and hit a few rocks, maybe. Yeah, they shouldn't be feeding on baby birds. They should be feeding on fish. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Apologies here, we lost track, did we? Because the wind's going to blow me off course. They're eating a baby seagull. They just pulled it out of the nest. So there's no food here if they're doing that. The only reason they're doing that is because there's no food. Wow. Well, so that seagull just pulled a baby seagull out of the nest to eat. And so we know the babies now are in a decent size. There's a little colony of cormorants up on top of that rock. See them up there? Nobody's feeding. There's no birds here diving or feeding around me. There's no birds diving or feeding or swimming. Well, there's one seagull way up there. And so we're just here to look at this particular colony. And what I should do is, well, we're going to stream for another 5 minutes or so. And then I'm going to get out the big camera. Oh, I'm going to get out the big camera. and do some zooming and see if we can spot any fledglings. That's a super bad sign. There's no birds feeding in the water and they're pulling babies out of the nest to feed on. The cormorants shouldn't be on this coastline anyway, but they're here. And when we last couple of years on the west coast of Canada, when we were doing the research, the cormorants basically disappeared. That was just a pretty big dump that seagull just tried to have on my head. And so, 1, 2, 3, 4, I can see several dozen nesting seagulls during nesting mode. Yeah, hi everybody. So there's a bunch of lobster pots, I guess, in right here. I have to be a little bit extra careful. So those cliffs we're looking at, they should be covered in excrement, right from nesting. See where they're eating and pooping at the same time? And so we're not seeing that. So that means there's not very many nests there. And the nest I'm seeing, the birds I'm seeing are really scattered. The majority of them, I would imagine, are over at the fish plant getting food, right? That's what we noticed the last couple of times we were out. That was the only time we seen the birds feeding was at the fish plant, which are currently doing crabs. So I'm not seeing the runoff from the excrement. You would see these incredible white streaks along the shoreline. And so I thought I'd take you along for the ride here. We're in 60 feet of water right here, but that'll change pretty quick. I got a few lobster pots to my north, just to my left. And so I got a decan, and the wind's blowing towards my bow. So that's pretty dismal to see a seagull. The first thing we seen feeding had pulled a baby seagull out of the nest and was killing it. So they're starving when you see that, right? And you're not seeing anything diving. There's no puffins. There's no cormorants diving. There is some cormorants here too, despite the fact there shouldn't be. So we're on a little island here that I know from a few weeks ago. So now we're seeing a few more nesting in the grass. And I expected to see several hundred birds here. I would imagine a lot of them are over to the fish plant eating, because that seems to be the only spot they're finding food. We don't see any birds in groups feeding on the ocean, which would be normal. Normally you would see them feeding on the anchovies or the squid or sardines or krill or capelin or herring or something, right? Hi guys. We're not seeing the excrement on the cliffs. And so there should be other species besides seagulls nesting. There's usually multiple species will nest, right? And again, this particular colony would be quite a lot of generations, 2,000 years of generations of nesting here. So these are what we call the residential birds. We're still in the harbor, basically. Not basically, but we're still in the harbor. And I'm just watching my depth and everything. So pretty interesting. We're not seeing nothing in the water feeding or nothing swimming around. We're not seeing any other species. Once I go around this point here, I'll start getting into the ground swells again. And I'm going to come back here after we stop the live stream and document everything with the big camera, with the zoom lens. Hopefully, I got the zoom lens on it. No, I don't got the zoom lens. It's good enough for what we're doing, though. We'll get away with it today. Cormorant going around us. There's 0 birds feeding in the ocean, and that's not normal. Normally you would see groups of birds feeding in the ocean. That would be normal, right? And so I was fooling around with the motor on the weekend. I thought I might have got it, but I didn't, because we got problems with restrictions on the speed. Motor runs perfect. Starts up excellent every time. Starts up excellent every single time. Japan has already killed the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. And that's a fact. There's some more cormorants over there off that point. See them where they hold their wings wide open. Only cormorants still will have that weird, iconic look to them. I could probably go down the other side because I'll have the little groundswell on my back, right? So we'll do that, make a circle of the island, and then we'll stop the stream after that, maybe. It's pretty shocking not to see any birds that are feeding. And so a lot of the birds won't be here, they should be gone feeding right now, coming back and forth, back and forth. And so as soon as we got here, we seen a gull pull a baby gull out of the nest, throw it down on the rocks, and then went down and killed it. we got that on video at the very beginning. So that was really something. So yeah, we're going to need a couple of days of wind from... I just got to watch my GPS here. We're pretty shallow right there. 18 feet. It's going to come up really shallow here in a second. 13 feet. 12, 10, 13 again, 12. I looked a little scary that time. I don't know why my gimbal kind of failed 3 times right now today so far. Okay, we're going to come down the outside of the island rather. So that way we got a circle of the island, and after I'm going to come back, do the same thing but with the big camera. And so when I look around here, I'm not seeing any kind of birds feeding. Right, you're not seeing anything diving, any groups of bird hovering. You're not seeing any gannets dive bombing. And so there could be 700 or 800 seagulls on this island by the looks of it. And these are residential. A lot of them will eat at McDonald's when the fish plants are closed. And I'm not kidding you, right? And so that they can't eat at low tide because there's nothing at low tide. So normally at low tide they're going to pick up sea urchins and mussels and periwinkles and whelks, snails and stuff like that. And they're going to bring them in, drop them on rocks and on sidewalks and on the roads. And they're going to eat that. And that's a very iconic site for the Atlantic provinces. And if you go down to the shoreline, you're not going to find any shells. They're not doing it. And when you go into the tide zones at low tide, get pretty shallow right there. Definitely I'll hit the bottom over right there. 6 feet of water where I'm to right now. 15 feet now. Start paying attention, Dana. And so when you see those cliffs, in there? Those cliffs should be covered in excrement from nesting different species, right? Different species. And there is some excrement on that rocks coming up in the video or the stream. I'm not sure if that's the spot. Or it's just right in the center there, right almost in the center to your left. Now it's in the center, a little excrement on the rocks. And there's some on these rocks here. I don't know how good that's going to come out on the video. But it'll stand out as white. It'll be a very distinct. And so you got cormorants. You got cormorants, a few of them. Oh, sorry. And so there should be many other species on these rocks, particularly puffins. And that group of birds in right here looks like looks like tickle-ass, what they call tickle-ass. These are like miniature seagulls, but they're not necessarily seagulls. You can see them there now. That's actually tickle-ass. You're looking at a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14 tickle-ass. And then they were all gathered together. The rest of these we're looking at, that's a tickle-ass flew by that time. And they look exactly like seagulls, except they're really small. And there's a bit of excrements on these rocks here. So that's the first time on the whole island we're actually seeing a symmetrical. And this should be covered in all kinds of nests. And it looks like more tickle-ass in right here. Another little colony of tickle-ass right up there. I'm going to try to zoom in a second. My apologies. That's my alarms going off. Yeah, but that's tickle-ass up there we're seeing. That's a whole colony of them. There's probably 100 of them total. And they're little, and then there's cormorants at the top up there. Right, you can see all the cormorants, and below it in the cliffs, below that you can hopefully see the tickle-ass. These are little tiny, basically tiny seagulls, right? They look like seagulls, but they have a different name. And so there's maybe 100 of them. There's probably 100 of them. So that's the first time we've seen a colony of tickle-ass. There's probably more than 100 here, actually. I don't see anything feeding. I'm not seeing anything feeding out on the ocean. We're going to do a circle here now towards the open sea. So we're taking the little ground swells right now on the stern. But we're going to do a circle to see if we can spot any other species or any kind of species feeding. And it's too rough to go over on the other side. It's too rough to go on the other side right now. You can see the wave busting over there. Because of these short ground swells, they rock the shit out of you, right? But we're not seeing anything feeding in the oceans. On this is trip 6 in June. And we have yet to see any groups of birds or groups of birds feeding. Well, I guess we've seen puffins. There's couple of small groups of puffins, like 10 and 15. And so there's a good colony of cormorants. They're spread all over the island. So we're probably going to see 150, 200 cormorants when the final number is done. And we're probably going to see 200 tickalass and probably 700 seagulls. And there could be a lot of seagulls over at the fish plant from this particular colony over in, what's the name of that place? Coley's Point, I think it is. So we got somebody from Australia, I think, talking about Darwin Harbour. Yeah, Australia. They're seeing the same thing over there. And we recorded a lot of die-offs around the world. Of course, we done a video last Thursday, a 2-hour, 40-minute video on die-offs. It was interesting not to see any other species, just... Well, we got 3 species, but there should be a dozen different species nesting on, for generations, for thousands of generations. Those species would return to this area and nest, right? And we're right inside of the breeding seasons. And so when we seen that seagull this morning, that's confirmation that we're seeing these gulls nesting on the island. So I've been streaming for 27 minutes? Really? Anyway, I'm just trying to get the kinks out of the system, and I appreciate anybody that had the time to come here and see what's going on. Yeah. I got no idea this morning. All I know is I'm glad it came out. That's another baseline for us, right? When the weather, because this is the first day of summer, when the weather breaks, we get a couple of, which starts Thursday, we'll get a few days. Yeah, thank you. We'll get a few days of east or southerly, westerly winds, southerly or westerly. That'll break down the ground swells, and we'll be able to get out there into the open. There's a puffin. I was a little surprised I haven't seen a puffin until now. And this is where we seen a seagull kill a little baby. We rolled up on it, he pulled the gull out and dropped it. And then went down and started killing it. Because there's nothing for him to eat. And then obviously the parents were gone over to the fish plant or somewhere, because there's nothing out here to eat, right? You're not seeing, because you can usually see it, the die-offs or the diving birds. Okay, so I took you around the island. We'll let it go at that. I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to use this camera and the gimbal, the big gimbal, right? And I'll just get some good pictures, see if I can spot any babies. Because we're back where we started to this morning. This is where we started at this point. I'm going to go back in there with the big camera, zoom in, and get a clean shot of whatever the corpse is of that. You can see that seagull in there. That seagull on the water edge, he's actually feeding on that dead baby bird right now that he killed a half an hour ago when we started. Okay. Robert Cramp says you caught a heap of tuna with mutations. That's a crazy statement. Okay, everybody. We'll see everybody tonight. We got 3 people on the show. Most important topic in human history. We got 3 people. That's crazy, isn't it? Anyway, we'll see everybody tonight on the show. Have a great night. Or a great day, folks, and we'll see everybody. No, I can't. James, I can't smell the ocean. No, that's a great point, by the way. Thank you. I never thought about it. And there's no smell whatsoever to the ocean. Nothing. Wow. Holy shit. I never even thought about it. Okay, well, I'll see everybody tonight, and I'll play some videos from the big camera with the big gimbal, and they'll be wide angle instead of this narrow angle. When I go home today, I'm going to try and see if I can figure out how to update the app that I got for widescreen, so we can stream in widescreen, because that would be a hell of a lot better. And we did get it to work last year, but okay, folks, have a great day. Thank you for finding time to drop by. We'll see everybody tonight now. Take care.